Welcome back after this wonderful summer. At least I hope you had a wonderful summer. Welcome back to the Color Authority. And we're going to start this season with a Finnish fashion designer. Sofia Ilmonen is a fashion designer dedicated to creating modular, transformable garments. Her work combines new ways of experiencing clothing and pieces that can be reshaped and reassembled like building blocks, offering endless possibilities. At the heart of her practice is a conscious response to the short lifespan of garments, blending creativity with responsibility. Sophia is quietly charting a fresh path in fashion where imagination and, of course, sustainability meet. Good afternoon, Sophia. I'm happy to be back after the summer and happy to be talking to you all the way in Helsinki. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Very well. Weather is lovely. It's becoming kind of like autumn season here. Yeah, nature is changing, but it's still lovely and sunshine at least today. So yeah, feeling really, really good.
I think it's a lucky thing for us. We have seasons. I think seasons also is so inspirational for when you're a designer. Because if you live in a constant climate, also the colors just around you change less, doesn't it? I mean, it is very inspirational.
That is true. Yeah, and definitely like here in Finland, like there are four seasons, especially on north of Finland. So the colors change completely. Obviously, winter is different to summer, but also now like autumn colors that they are beautiful. So really looking forward to going into this. And also I feel like autumn is also because in here the school starts like beginning of August. So it feels like a new season or new start for even for
Mm.
me, even even not going to school anymore. But so there's something in the air.
Yeah, a lot of people say spring is like a new start and refreshing, but actually autumn is as well. Like it's, some people it's I guess it's the positive twists that you give to it because a lot of people miss summer when it's gone.
Yeah.
So you've obviously born and raised in Finland. So I mean, I even had many discussions about the terms about what does Nordic mean and what does Scandi mean, which countries are included and which ones are not, because we all tend to think that when you talk about Scandinavia, all Nordic countries are included. I found out that's not the case. But also when we think about generally, let's say, design coming also from your northern part of Europe, it's really minimalism that we think about. But your pieces are anything but minimalistic. They're very dreamy, fantasy-like, volume. They literally are like this dream coming through, I think, for many women. But so how's that? And loads of color as well. Normally, also when we look up the northern colors, they're not extremely colorful. So what is your main inspiration when you look at your designs and how you become inspired?
Yeah, I know my designs are far from minimalistic, but I love playing with the kind of like the volume and the silhouettes and the detailing. And I've been also thinking like where does it come from? But when you said about this like the dreamy looks and dreamy designs, maybe I grew up in north of Finland and I didn't necessarily have designers that I knew. So I lived the design dream through magazines and whenever I got my hands on in any like international magazines like Vogue, that was kind of like I was dreaming of that. So could that be, I haven't really thought about this, but could that be one reason that I'm now living that kind of reality that I've missed when I was younger? But also, I mean, I loved when I was a kid, I used to do garments for my dolls or Barbies and so on. So it was kind of like that was my way of making my designs into reality at that time. But yeah, maybe it is like where does the inspiration come from? It can be really small things. It can be it can be a color that inspires me. It can be a kind of like a story, something nostalgic from my childhood, a small thing that then grows into a bigger theme. But also, I think for me, it's quite specific in this modular transformable design that I do. And that really keeps kind of inspiring me time after time. And I remember when I started kind of developing this concept and this idea, loads of people used to say to me, like, am I kind of limiting myself too much just working with square modules or rectangular forms? But what I have found out after 5 or 6 years that no, actually, it kind of feeds me, it inspires me, like how different ways you can just use these simple shapes.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's a constant inspiration for sure.
Yeah. So talking about you being Nordic, or your background obviously being Finnish, you still live obviously in Finland. I know you travel a lot, obviously you do get out of the country, but it's so you have influences from obviously a lot of places. But how do you think you were influenced in your work being born in a large part of great darkness in the winter, especially if you were born in the north of Finland, and then never ending summers and sun in the summer period? Like how has that influenced also your design?
Yeah, that is the contrast between the seasons. Yeah, maybe it's again kind of like are you kind of like trying to get away from the darkness by creating these dream worlds, or well, for me I call it my modular universe, and through that, but also I mean I'm that person who loves winters and cold weather and snow, so I actually enjoy that as well. And then the summers, honestly, the lights and like being constantly like lights, it's quite magical. And after every winter, you forget like, oh my goodness, has it been always so light? Like where does it come from? And it's always a surprise. And it's almost like a joke that everyone keeps saying this year after year. But yeah, I love how you can feel the different seasons that it changes. It kind of like rhythms your even like your year.
What is color to you personally? So besides you looking at it in your work, of course, but what is it to you looking at indeed the darkness and the light of what literally your life is every year?
Yeah, colors. I think they are so powerful. Like yeah, it can be kind of like a mood. It can be a certain type of energy. And I think colors, they definitely have the kind of like ability to kind of like shift how you yourself even kind of live in the world, or how it can shift your mood, or like even the people around you, how they see you. It kind of like, it can be both soft and hard, or joyful, or like, bit moody. But like if I'm thinking about my design work, it's definitely not like a almost like a decoration. It's definitely part of the story.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I think color is always part of a story. Like nobody just slaps a color onto something. Well, I think that's actually still happening, and I think that's people that probably need a bit of advice. Do you think that your color play, because your colors are very bright most of the time. I mean, yours obviously there's also some neutrals and some blacks in your work. Do you think that is indeed due to you growing up in in a country where yes, there is color, but it's either there's hardly any vibrant colors due to obviously the seasons.
Hmm. Yeah, that is a good question. So, like I said, I've never maybe thought about it that way. It kind of like came quite naturally for me to choose these colors that I'm using, and really, I don't know. It kind of like like I said, it's almost like its own character on the garment when it has a color. But funnily enough, now like the recent collection that I've done, I've used white, grey, beige, and black. So I think I had some sort of like I don't know what it is, but like maybe I needed to step back from the bright colors for the recent collection. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. I think also so I always teach my clients when you work a lot with saturated colors, obviously at a certain point it can get it can get tiresome. So sometimes you just need, again, like this blank canvas, something that's more tranquil and more calming. And that's the same with you. So probably you're going through a period where you need colors that are a bit more down to earth, probably. It's funny.
Yeah, I think that that's what it is. And now already thinking about the next collection, I have like loads of ideas that I want to use, and that includes some brighter colors.
Yeah, happy to hear about that. Yes. You've I mean you've had quite the journey. You've been all over the place, of course. You've had your own collection of release since a while, but you've had a lot of experience at brands like Alexander McQueen, and this all obviously it's a part of who you are, of course, and who you are as a designer. But can you talk a little bit how this experience in Alexander in London led you to your own creations, and also what are pieces that you took with you, and what are others that you were like, I'm leaving that behind. This is not something I want to deal with in my own brand.
Yeah, I think especially working at McQueen, it was that mentality that when you need to achieve a certain kind of like look, detail, silhouette, whatever it was, it doesn't matter whether it takes an hour or weeks or 2 weeks or a month. You just like you do that to achieve that beautiful final finish, and that kind of appreciation for craftsmanship, uh, yeah, and determination to creating beautiful, like handcrafted garments. That was just amazing there. And I have to say, I worked alongside people who have worked in the atelier for decades. So I learned so much from them, like technical knowledge and all sort of knowledge within that field. So I feel really privileged that I had that experience. And yeah, I think some of the kind of like techniques that I maybe use there, like haute couture techniques, you can definitely see in my work. And also, I think that's some sort of, I'm not comparing myself to McQueen at all, but that kind of like mentality that things can take a longer time, and that's still like, it's okay. Although in this type of like maybe in market place where everything needs to be quick and cheap
Yeah.
almost, or affordable, you can still create, yeah, beautiful things, and that's valuable. Yeah, so that's definitely something that my mind has had shifted towards. But then when working for like a bigger business, fashion house, you are one worker in a bigger team, and obviously then you might not have the opportunity to affect things or have much decision power in those bigger companies. So then maybe that's something that I now got to or have to do, all the decisions myself. So, but that was something that I was kind of like, if I had an idea, it would have been great to share. But obviously, I understood that it takes a while and it's a longer process. And also, for, yeah. How many seasons? There's like four different collections a year that those like bigger companies
Yeah.
does, and that is just a lot. And that kind of like fast-paced world, even in a higher fashion houses, I've definitely something that I've left behind, and I'm concentrating only one collection a year.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely trying to slow it down.
Yeah, a little bit more of slow fashion instead of fast fashion. I think also when you buy one of your pieces, you're going to keep it for the rest of your life because it's so particular. It is really for, you know, it is like a piece that you wear, also special occasions and stuff like that. So I don't think it's something that you just buy and then again. It's like it could be your personality piece, right? The piece that you wear on important moments, and I think that's different than obviously what fast fashion is doing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, yeah, one part of the concept is that, yeah, they are transformable.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
I and I really mean that. So that basically the modular structure that I've developed allows you to change. Let's say if you have a four module top, you can actually change them into full module trousers. So from a top or like long sleeve shirt into trousers, that is possible. So and I mean that's just kind of like couple options for those amount of modules. It can be many more. So literally, it's the circulation of the garment. You still have the same building blocks, but the silhouette can be different.
Yeah. I do a lot of trends for companies and obviously anybody who's looking into what's happening in interior world, in architecture. And then we always talk about modular furniture, modular, housing, adaptability, multi-generational living, because so everything has to be modular. But it's the first time I heard about modular design. So it's the first time I heard about what you do, which is modular design. You have the squares and the rectangles, as you said, and you can completely adapt them. But can you explain a little bit more in depth and how can somebody adapt them? Like I would already see myself with one of your pieces and not know where to start. So, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen like it takes like a couple of hours to change the silhouettes. And at the moment, I actually offer this transformation service. So you can send your garment back, choose another style, and then I create that for you, or we create it in here at our studio. For the future, yeah, I'm planning to do this like kits or like instructions how you can actually change the garments yourself. It is actually so you don't need sewing machine to do any of the changes. So I basically have these two-headed buttons that doesn't need sewing, but you actually loop them through the structure. That's how it happens. So yeah, no sewing machine is needed. It's the buttons who does the magic. But there's also this cords that goes into the structure. So then you can gather the garments into different shapes, and that kind of gives you then the size kind of adaptability. So my garments are actually like one size garments, or actually I like sizeless term better. Yeah.
sizeless garments. Well, they've got, I think a lot of shops sell this, you know, it's one size only. And I'm like, no, it's not. Because I don't fit in it. So it's not one size. Stop saying it's only one size and you only did one size because I don't fit, because I'm very tall and, a bit bigger than I guess the average, particularly Spanish woman. But so you do size less. It sounds so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think exactly that if you say like almost the phrase that one size fits all, that doesn't necessarily happen. And I don't want to kind of like say that to my garments either, but there are definitely loads of ways is that you can adjust the garment. Actually, yeah, like proportion wise, like we are all different heights. So the skirt part can be in different places in dresses and so on. So there are loads of things that can be adapted and adjusted on these garments.
Yeah, and that's why you have the volume, of course, because if you have more volume and then you can, with the cords, you can make it, a little bit bigger, a little bit tighter. I think it's a very interesting concept, hence you being here, obviously. Well, you're technically here because we have a friend in common, obviously Susanne Björklund, who was wearing one of your creations, and then I had to wear it when I was in Stockholm, and then obviously like, who is this girl who designs these pieces? And then here we are, see, a
Yeah,
master.
brilliant. Yeah.
So zero waste is a goal, obviously, for many brands. I think zero waste is like, it's super, super, super tough. I think it's even tougher for the fashion industry, unless you're obviously doing everything in 3D printing. But even with 3D printing, there's some waste. What are solutions that, for example, your fashion items bring to this table that are tapping into this whole concept of also zero waste and circularity?
Mm. Yeah, well, because they are square pieces or rectangular shapes, they quite nicely fit into to the width of the fabric, so there's hardly any waste when making the garments. So in that way, material waste it's almost zero, and also because of the kind of like all the pieces are built with using just the same kind of like modules although I do have four different types, but basically I can have just a stack of modules, and then when there is a order, I can make the garment whatever is ordered into that silhouette from those modules that I have stacked. So they are never kind of like going to waste, or they are kind of discarded because they are the wrong size or wrong silhouette or wrong style. So that's working really well in that way as well. And also, I mean, even collections, when I do collections, I have been incorporating old modules or like the old styles, but then reassembling them into new silhouettes. So I even kind of like recycle or circulate the kind of old, I don't want to say old, but the modules from the previous collections into the new, just because it's always like, yeah, telling a story and how to tell it in different ways. So it's so much about the silhouette. So those even circulate as well.
Think that's an important point that it's recurring every conversation again. We need to step away from thinking that new needs to be new. Innovation can also be something that you already have existing. It's on the shelf, but it's just giving it a different twist or tweak. And
Absolutely.
that's what you're doing as well. You do a lot of material research also. I think this is very much part, obviously, also of creating something that obviously is better for this world. How is material part of your creations? Because you work with multiple materials. So how do you weave this into your brand?
Yeah, no, I actually, yeah, I love the testing part and trying out different materials, and especially because I do this modular structure, I always have to test it with that, then how it drapes, how it behaves with the structure, and would it actually then work in use or in what kind of garments. So yeah, that's definitely one big part of the of my work. And also because they are kind of like the pieces are meant to be transformed, I always need to think about like, yeah, how the piece or how the material looks on the reverse side, for example. How does it work if you twist it in kind of like in an ankle and so on. So it's kind of like quite also like quite technical mindset when choosing the materials. But obviously, then in the end, it needs to be the aesthetic that then why I choose a material. And I've been quite lucky to do collaborations, for example, with Spinnova. It's a Finnish technology where you can recycle cellulose-based or like even like recycle cotton and viscose as well, with a really minimal impact on the environment. And yeah, we did actually kind of like two collections with them. So this like yeah, experience was really nice to be on the kind of almost like front line to use the material and test it, and then give feedback for them how does it work on garments, because that's where they want to focus on clothing materials. But also then actually I've done collaboration with BioColor, which uses natural color and test them and research them, and they want to kind of find out different aspects of natural dyes, but especially on the kind of industrial level, how but natural dyes could be kind of more usable in the industry. And then, I mean, that was the research on color, but also in different materials, how the natural dyes work in different materials.
Yeah. So you've done natural color dyes in one of your garments already, and it's part of your collection.
So actually, the my graduate collection, I had a couple of two looks that were naturally dyed. Really, this bright pink of fuchsia color, but then also green. And I love doing natural dyeing, and I would love to maybe have more of that in my collections. But maybe it's the fact that they are not that like color fast
Hmm.
just yet, maybe. So that's maybe something that doesn't just yet go with my concept when I'm thinking about the longevity of garments. obviously you can always re-dye them, but also there are already companies who sell ready naturally dyed materials, and that's super exciting. So I'm definitely following that with close eye. And also there is this one Finnish company called Natural Indigo or
Yeah,
Natural Indigo. I don't know if you've heard of them,
yeah.
but they are really pushing forward with the like industry level natural dyeing. And I think the latest one now is maybe the coffee grounds that they are using from cafes, taking the used coffee grounds and then turning that into dyes, which is
Yeah.
again, I think that's brilliant and super exciting to kind of like see where that goes.
Yeah. I've also, when I was looking on your Instagram, I also saw you created a dress that envisioned the protection of the Baltic Sea, which obviously is your sea, for an award ceremony. What was that? And talk us a little bit about that experience, of course, which obviously probably was amazing, and the process that you went through.
Yeah, that was actually, that was an amazing experience. So this was last end of last year, and there is this Finnish independence reception at the presidential palace happening every year, and people get invited, and then those who don't get invited watch it on the telly. So we literally sit down at home in the sofas and watch when people walk in and they shake hands with the president. So that's the moment that you see everyone who's coming in, you see how they are dressed, and you see their dresses. So that's a big thing, and it's a kind of like it might sound a bit silly, but it's a lovely kind of tradition and celebrational moment. So yeah, Anni Järvitalo was invited to the reception, and she's a landscape architect, and in her work, it's really important for her to kind of like advocate for Baltic Sea. It's super fragile, so then she wanted a garment that would kind of like highlight that. So then she loved my work as well. So then she was asking like whether there would be a possibility just to kind of like incorporate somehow this idea of Baltic Sea and the protection. And then I started thinking about the Julia Lohman, who is the head of department of seaweed. She's the expert of on seaweed. So she came along and we started to think like, okay, we want to have the actual seaweed on the garment. But then also, like I mentioned about biocolors, so then we collaborated with them as well. So the garment was naturally dyed with red onion peels, so it had this lovely green tone, and then also a seaweed, which was the similar tone, and that worked as a decoration on the dress. And yeah, then Annie wore that at the reception, and yeah, it was really special experience.
And were you
How we
there, or were you on the sofa watching?
I was on the sofa watching, so I didn't get invitation. Maybe, hopefully, hopefully one day, but not that time. But it was it was a special in the way I feel like, because there was kind of like this almost like research art and kind of like design aspects all
Mhm.
coming together, and yeah, and the dress looked beautiful on Annie as well. So that
Yeah.
was
No,
good.
I loved it. I loved it. Yeah. So this was obviously something that inherently you selected colors that were obviously inspired by algae, and then the specific algae, obviously, of the Baltic Sea. But how do you, if it's not such a project, how do you select colors for your garment? Because very often they're monocolor, but then obviously the jacket that I wore very shortly was multicolor. How do you come about your process?
Mm. It's quite intuitive. I think like choosing the colors, it's about the maybe it's about the story or the research that I kind of like have that at the moment that I want to reflect on the collection. Uh, so I wouldn't have a one specific kind of like way of doing that. But like I said at the beginning, like color is so much about the mood. So then I want to choose the colors that kind of reflect that. But also also like maybe when choosing materials, it's also the technical or more kind of like maybe that side of the story. So for example, what kind of colors are available for a small business like me? Not every supplier are ready, like their minimum quantity orders are quite high for me,
I never
so I
thought
couldn't.
about that. That's true. I never thought about that. You can select whatever you want because you don't have big batches.
Yeah. So that's maybe sometimes that I might find a beautiful fabric or beautiful color, but then, if I can't buy hundreds of meters, then maybe, yeah, I can't obviously use that then. And
Oh,
then also maybe so how the modular structure is, I have this loop tape sewn on top of the material,
mhm.
and that has certain colors on it. So then I have the color card on their available colors. So then when I want to do that matching, obviously that is kind of like I need to do that picking, like what tape color works in what fabric
Yeah.
colors. So it's kind of like matching those. And although they have wide range of colors, they don't have everything. So also that is kind of like something that is maybe, uh, yeah, I can't choose all the colors.
But maybe
But
the fact
then,
that you can't pick everything, it also makes you more inventive.
well, this is as well, like with the concept. I think it's again, it's almost like feeding my inspiration rather than kind of like restricting it. So I haven't found it uh such a bad kind of thing just yet. And if I want to, there's always the possibility to me to mix my own color. So when I come to that, when I've used all the options on the color card, then
Yeah.
then I can start mixing my own colors. But we'll have to come back to that jacket that you wore the leather jacket. It's actually funny because those leather squares, they used to be bags. I made them into like folded bags, different kind of like handbags and
Yeah.
clutch bags and so on. And I've had them since my graduation collection, and they've been just waiting there. And then I thought, okay, this is beautiful, beautiful, like reindeer leather, and they are just sitting there. And the colors on that, they are really lovely as well. So I thought, okay, I only have one or maybe max two of the same module. Like, okay, what could I do with these? And I haven't really done multicolored things before because
Yeah.
I've always felt like, okay, this is distracting me from the silhouettes. So it kind of like felt like when I'm doing this full layered silhouettes, I want the color to be just one. So I'm not, it's not distracting from the actual shape.
Mhm.
But for this jacket, again, when I had those just like one per color, I thought, okay, now is my chance to try this multicolored jacket or garment. And I made it. I loved the style, but I wasn't still sure about the colorways. I had the jacket on a mannequin for like I think it was there for a week. And every morning I came to the studio, I was like, okay, I'm liking this more. And then in the end of the week, I was like, okay, this is great. Like, why haven't I done this before? So it was kind of like maybe a learning journey for me as well. That I've been so used to just using a singular color. So now expanding definitely towards multicolored pieces more.
Yeah. I think that's a great lesson. A lot of people just say, okay, pick a color and then that's it, that's done. No, it's very important that you come back to that color once, twice, just as many times as you need to be certain that that's. And I know in fast fashion it's not like that, but at least when you do your home, for example, or when you buy a piece, it's really important. You need to look at it a little bit longer so you know how you feel because it's all about emotions, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you look at color, obviously a lot of what I hear a lot of in my industry right now, oh, but color is applied, so it's not sustainable because then in the recycling process, obviously you can't really detach it. Also, if it's very bright, maybe people get tired of it and then so how do you see that color in the sustainable process? How do you deal with that in your daily work?
Mm. No, that is a good question, and like definitely true. And have to say I haven't really found an answer to that yet, because although I try to kind of like do as well as I can in within like sustainability, obviously there it's still it's a process. And like I said about the natural materials, that the maybe the dye fastness isn't at its level like with synthetic dyes just yet. And could you actually embrace that idea that they maybe fade more easily than taking it as a almost like a bad thing that the colors fade on natural dyes. So maybe that is something. It's again, it's a process, and I still think in a way that creating clothes, it's still about in the end. Why would you choose a garment? Obviously, you would feel appealed to it. You like the style or the color or whatever it is, a little detail on it, and a garment that you would love to wear. So what's the point of, like, let's say doing garments that doesn't spark any joy on anyone, but it would be the most sustainable garment in the world, although it's not so black and white, I know, definitely that. So in a way, I try to always think that I do have this core of my work, which I believe in, and which is kind of almost like the guide for me for whatever I do, and the values there. And then that kind of like it kind of like guides me, but also it kind of like drives me to do better. So kind of like keeping my eyes open for new developments on that field.
Hmm. Yeah. I think there's different ways to also look at values. I mean, everybody's now really stuck on obviously circularity and zero waste, but I think one of the other values that your brand really brings is inclusivity. You know, you literally say, I want to design for all, you know, not just for a few. Can you talk a little bit about this aspect about your garments?
Yeah, so the garments, like I said, they are kind of like designed to be sizeless. So my sizing guide actually for the kind of basic form, it goes from EU 34 to EU 46. So it's quite a wide range on just that one garment. And obviously they will look different on different bodies, but still kind of like it is the same garment. And it's so much when I was doing research on kind of like transformable garments or so, it was so much about the kind of fact that what's good things about it, that it's obvious that your body will change during the times, and what's the maybe the one of uh, the biggest reasons of discarding a garment, it's a bad fit.
Yeah.
So that was maybe kind of like also tapping into that fact that you are not you are not a size, and you're still valuable whatever size you are. So it's kind of like that kind of idea what resonates with me a lot, like quite personally as well. And I love the fact that these garments could literally be and kind of like live with you and change with you, well, in size or in silhouettes and styles.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I try to communicate that through kind of like how I present my garments in different bodies, and that it doesn't just fit into one basic standard size.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, slowly the world is changing, but sometimes we have a fallback again, and so it's good to hear that there's people like you out there that are, you know, thinking differently. I think that's important in today's world. To think differently already is a very positive thing. When we look at your personal color power, I think everybody has a color power. So that's also a new a new question that I'm thinking about, you know, asking everybody on my podcast. But what is your personal color power?
Hmm. Well. if I would just need to choose one color, it would be definitely pink. And I mean that type of like it's not baby pink, it's this quite bright. I think like flamingo, but if you can think about flamingo, that type of pink. And I think that's maybe true both for myself and for my brand. I think pink has so much power. It can be kind of like it's kind of like being confident without being aggressive type of thing. And I think it's optimistic. It's quite energetic, playful.
Yeah.
Just love it. But then on the on the contrast side of things, I myself I wear quite a lot of black, probably like most of us do. And maybe for me, it's kind of like maybe it feels safe and grounding, kind of like wear black. And also when working on kind of like this quite visual job, sometimes it's nice to wear black that it doesn't distract you from anything else.
Hmm.
So maybe maybe somehow that I would think that pink is maybe my kind of like, I don't know, my statement color, but then maybe black is maybe then my comfort color.
Yeah, but it's the comfort color for many people because black makes you invisible.
Yeah, yeah, that as well. Yeah,
Yeah, it makes us skinnier, and at least us, even though it's the heaviest color, it makes us skinnier. Yeah, I'm not allowed to buy black anymore. So, yeah,
really
no, I'm not. Every time I'm in the shop, like, oh, but we have it in black. And I'm like, can't do it. Like, I'm not allowed anymore.
good, good. I maybe I should do that rule as well.
But yeah, oh, this was so lovely, Sophia. I thank you from the bottom of my heart to just, it's a joy listening to you. And thank you so much for being part of Color Authority.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to another podcast of the Color Authority. I hope you enjoyed it. Please rate, comment, and feedback the show. So let us know what you think. And next month, we will come back to you with another colorful episode.